Welcome to the Versa Business Tips Podcast. I'm your host, founder, and CEO, Shaheen Mazloom, and we are here with Kate today. She has an awesome event planning company from weddings to corporate events, you name it. I'm looking forward to talking to you and diving in about what you do, Kate. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Absolutely, absolutely. So for those out there that don't know you, explain a little bit about what it is you do and your entrepreneurial background.
Yep, I'm Kate with Kate Nicole Events. So I mainly focus on weddings, but also do corporate events and high-end private parties. So can do a little bit of everything, offer full planning, partial planning if you feel equipped with doing some of it on your own, but need some guidance, and then more of that month out coordination. So that typically comes in a lot for couples, that pretty much have everything together, but need some help in making sure they have everything done leading up to the day, and then being their right-hand day off for the most important day of their lives.
Right. That's really cool. I've just gone through this whole thing myself, right? Never been married before, getting married in a month. And it's funny, you actually brought something up that I didn't know was even possible. You said kind of like a partial where you do part of it and then they do some stuff on their own. I didn't even know that was a thing in event planning.
Yep, it is. So, we're not a one-stop shop. Not everything fits into every couple, right? So being
Right.
able to have different types of packages that work well with different types of couples, different style weddings, whether it's a destination wedding or a wedding in your backyard, like we can work through different types of, style weddings, events, and so on and so forth. So with partial, it's the couples that feel great about the actual planning and doing things on their own, where they
Right.
just need to make sure they're staying on task. So, prioritization's huge. There's a lot to do going into a wedding. You can't do it
Oh,
all at
yeah.
once. So really prioritizing, giving those tasks that they need to do and breaking it out month by month, and then having check-ins with them, making sure they're staying on track, giving them tips and tricks, but giving them the tools to do it on their own versus doing it for them.
Right. So when, how did you get into this industry?
So funny story. So I went to college for fashion merchandising.
Okay.
Thought I was going to be a designer, designing clothes, designing handbags, something of
Right.
that nature in fashion. Realized drawing was not my strong suit. So pivoted a little bit. And I'm like, okay, I want to stay in the fashion industry. So while I was in college, I was actually able to get myself into New York Fashion Week. So this was about 8
Nice.
years ago. Yep, got into New York Fashion Week, was up there as a volunteer very quickly, moved my way up as a lead production assistant. So really like leading the production side of the fashion shows, multiple days, working with, models, celebrities, agencies, lots of
Very
moving
cool.
parts, but it was such a great feeling at the end of the day when you brought everything together and it was a
Right.
successful show. So, I did that for a couple years. Then I was like, I'm not going to move to New York. So, what am I going to do? So, took a job in corporate right here in our backyard in Baltimore. Been there 10 years and kind of just figured out, what I wanted to do as far as a full-time career. So, I'm actually doing corporate events full-time on the experiential marketing side. And, a couple years ago, I realized I want to kind of run my own show. So
Right.
launched my business, realized how much I enjoyed the planning side of things. It's a chaos industry, right? So like some people
Right.
call ourselves the chaos coordinators. But it's
A
very
lot of emotions too.
yes, but it's very lucrative at the end of the day when it all comes together. So
Yeah.
kind of pivoted a little bit, but it all came back to, planning, working with multiple different types of vendors, people, agencies and so on and so forth, and really just realized that's where my passion was.
Right. Now, would you say that your experience with like the New York Fashion Week, the stuff you went to college, all that stuff kind of tied in and it has made you so successful in your event planning company?
I would say yes, definitely experience over textbook sometimes. It's
Right.
important to get the degree, right? But actually jumping in and learning hands on and being right there front and center and learning on site and in the thick of things. And, while something comes up and learning how to work through that, like definitely gave me, I think, a foot ahead of some other people that haven't worked
Right.
in those types of very high end, chaotic, working with athletes, working with celebrities. I think a lot of that was able to help me in my business and bring that with some of these events and weddings that I've planned.
Right. When you can handle chaos, it doesn't matter what kind of chaos it is. I mean, it goes so hand in hand with any type of business because running a business, growing a business, starting a business is probably one of the most chaotic things there is, right?
Yep.
So Explain to me a little bit about like, so right now, are you still working and running your business at this? Are you working for a different company and running your business at the same time, or have you moved over full time into the business?
I sure am. I am doing both right now.
Wow. Wow. So what's kind of are you trying to pivot into full time running the business, or does it work hand in hand with your job to be able to just do both and it makes more sense to cover it with both aspects?
Yeah, eventually I'll get to the point where, Kate Nicole events will be my sole focus. Right now, I'm in a very advantageous place where, what I'm doing in my full time job is experiential marketing, is what we call it. So,
Right.
being able to really build those experience and those touch points, I've been able to bring that into my relationships with my couples, with the weddings that I plan, because, at the end of the day, everything has to have a touch point from start to finish with that day. So, I'm not just thinking through what favors are they getting, but how are those favors showing up? When are guests receiving those? What is that experience like on site too? So there's so much benefit I get from, being able to do the corporate side of things and that experiential side, and how I'm able to bring
Right.
that into my business as well.
Okay, that makes sense. So it kind of ties in with each other. So your job is the corporate event side of things, and then your business is more focused on weddings. Is that accurate?
Yep, that's accurate. But I am doing like corporate networking events and stuff like that for my company too. So,
Awesome.
the sky's really the limit with the exception of
Yeah.
kids' birthday parties. I have a website and a consultation form on there. So if it's an event someone's interested in throwing, I'm always willing to set up time, and I offer free consultations to talk to anyone, see
Right.
what their plan is, see what their goals are. Does it make sense to work together? But can definitely bring the corporate side of it into my company as well. And networking is really kind of the next step I've been working on launching, and corporate
Very
networking
cool.
events.
Awesome. So, like, let's say somebody like me, I've always wanted to throw a networking event or, a fundraiser or something. Do you actually help them build the guest lists, or is that something they've got to come to the table with? I mean, you mentioned marketing. So, if somebody's just kind of, spitballing an idea, hey, I want to put on this event, but I don't know who to invite. I don't have this big Rolodex of guests. Do you handle the marketing for that and help them create that as well?
So typically it's usually the flip side. People come to me and they're like, I have these people and I want to do something with them. Like, what can you
Right.
do and how do I do it? So I'll
Oh,
work with
okay.
them with the framework, setting up how the event looks, what they need to do leading up to it. As far as the guests go, again, sky's kind of the limit. Like, if that's something that you'd be interested in, or anyone else out there, we can definitely talk through what that'll look like. Everything's an opportunity, and the more networking we all have, right? Networking's huge. Networking's your net
Yeah.
worth, right? So,
Yeah.
that's definitely something I think we could talk about and explore for sure.
Absolutely. Very cool. So, for me with wedding, I think the hardest thing was not really having a clue, right? Like realizing, okay, I've never been married before, and everybody experiences this at some point. Are most people as clueless as we feel like we were about like all the little things from the napkin and how many layers the cake's gonna be and how many chairs to a table and just every little detail? Are most people clueless that there's so much that goes into it, or is it kind of a bit of both? Because I felt so stupid when we were meeting with the wedding planner, to be honest.
Oh, don't feel stupid. It's not everybody's area of expertise, right? Or there be a bunch of us out
Right.
there. It's definitely a mix. You have people that come in that have an idea of what they want, what they're looking for. Sometimes what we end up with is actually different from that. Sometimes it's similar. Working with them really helps you get an understanding of what they're looking for. But there are some people that come in that are completely blank slate, like, hey, I know I want to get married. That's about it. So I need help with
Yeah,
everything.
that's where we were because neither one of us, I mean, we're a little older, so like neither one of us have ever been married. We got to a point where we're like, we probably won't ever get married. And then bam, we met, and it's like, oh, damn, now we got to do this whole wedding
It's never
thing.
too late. Never too late.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. So, what would you say? You're dealing with high emotions. You're dealing with a lot of different things. How do you keep organized with all that? Like, what are some tips you can give to entrepreneurs that are, like me? I mean, I don't know if you can see my desk right now, but there's notes and papers everywhere. Like, how do you stay organized with the chaos and making sure all your tasks get done? Like, what are some things that you do?
Prioritization is 100% key. There's always 100 things, on everybody's to-do list every day. And especially as a business owner, we have the adulting to-do list like everybody else out there. And then we have the other things for our company, whether it's, just keeping up with company things or things you want to do to scale your company. There's,
Right.
100 things out there that I want to be working on daily. But to me, it really comes down to prioritization. So, making sure every day I look at my to-do list. What do I need to get done today? What do I need to get done this week? What can happen next week? And I constantly redo that over and over again. So, and I'm also making sure, those to-do lists are, not just written down. I have it on my phone. So if I'm on the go and something comes up, I have electronic versions of it that I can update. So just making sure it's something that syncs in all of the areas is
Right.
critical for me. 'Cause, you're driving and you have a moment, you're here, you're there,
Yeah.
I got to add it to it. So just having systems in place that you can easily update regularly and then continuing looking at your to-do list and prioritizing it over and over again.
Right. Now, are you just using like a notepad, or are you using like a certain app that helps you organize your to-do list?
So I use a couple different tools. I have not found one perfect system yet. I keep saying I'm going to make one day with all the different resources and softwares that I use. I'm like, there's not one perfect project manager CRM tool out there just yet. So one thing I actually literally use is the Microsoft To Do app. I keep it at the bottom of my phone. So you know how you have like, if you have an iPhone,
Right.
you have the 4 apps at the bottom. So it's like my right one. It's the one I'm always clicking and looking at. So I update that and I have different like subcategories for it. So I have like my daily, my weddings, personal life things, shopping list, stuff like that. So you can really categorize and bucket out the different topics in there. So
Very
love
cool.
that. It doesn't always need to be something fancy. Something
Right.
I realized, so you don't need a fancy tool to be able to do simple tasks. So having
Right.
that, and then, I have a CRM system I use, stuff that I can communicate with my clients that tracks my invoicing, that tracks their to-do list, where we're at with their meetings. Those are more robust systems that I use for more of that client management side
Right.
of things. But yeah, the Microsoft To Do app has been
I'm
worked
gonna have to
wonders.
check that out. That sounds great. Like right now, I have an assistant, so she keeps me on track most of the time. But like even my to-do list, I just get so lost in the mix. There's so many things on there, and I've got it in a note on my phone, but it's like I never get to the bottom because I'm always adding stuff in. And next thing you know, I'm like, oh my God, I was supposed to do that 2 months ago.
Yep, you got to bucket it,
So,
categorize it, and assign
yeah,
timelines to it.
absolutely. Absolutely. So in taking this transition from working full time to starting this business, trying to grow it and get to a point where that's your go-to thing, what has been the biggest struggle in growing the event side of the business, and what are you doing right now to try to overcome that and make it your full-time thing?
I think for me, it's definitely, quality over quantity, right? So, I was very careful with marketing myself in the beginning. So, not doing a ton to really get my name out there, more so just taking on clients by referral, word of mouth. So, I could really get down the perfect science of like how I wanted to run my company, how I wanted the experience to be. So,
Yep.
for me, I think that'll be like the next set, like now that I fine tuned all of the processes in place to really open up the floodgates and then continue to hire.
Yes.
So, I have a couple girls that are already working for me. They do day of coordination. They're amazing. I'm so thankful for them. And it's been awesome bringing them onto this journey too. So being able to have, more people, I think full time too, under my belt will be like the next thing. So I have more of that, like an assistant, like you have full time, which would be
Yeah.
great to have
Yeah.
one day.
I mean, it's crazy. I mean, you're doing it right. I mean, I think a lot of the times people, they say, what is it, like 95% of businesses fail in the first year. It's because they market too much. They haven't figured out their processes. They haven't figured out their staffing and what they need, and so they're taking on more than they can handle, and then now they're getting the bad reviews and the complaints, and they're not finishing stuff, and it's just too big too fast. So you're doing it right. You've got all your stuff down, and then now you can kind of start to scale and build from there. That's great. I'm excited for you.
Definitely.
So
Yeah.
when you like, do you have a conflict of interest? Because like I've talked to people before that they work for a company, but the only way they feel they can start in that same industry is if they completely part ways. How did that conversation go with the company that you're with, being that it's a similar type of industry? And how do you kind of uh not have that issue of conflict of interest?
Our target audience is different, right? So with my corporate job, we're not planning weddings there. We're not
Right.
going after, private parties and corporate events to that extent. It's corporate in the sense of, we're trying to sell the product for the company that I work for and focusing on the KPIs and goals of the company versus hosting an event or planning a wedding.
I
So it's,
gotcha.
while there's definitely, overlap in the skill set that I have,
Right.
there's not overlap with the type of audiences that we're both working with.
Okay.
Yep. So
Okay,
it's,
cool.
and it's just, making sure you're paying attention to those contracts and if there is exclusivity in, the
Yeah.
corporate role that you have. I know there's some companies out there where you can't even get close to,
Right.
having that overlap. So it's just paying attention and really looking at the verbiage that they have with their contracts with their companies, and also making sure, you're being smart about the time that you spent. Like I
Yeah.
said, I prioritize things. So, it might be where I use my lunch break to take a call with a bride, but, I'm not jeopardizing things that are going on in
Right, you're not
corporate
doing it
life.
on
Correct.
company time. Right,
Yep.
exactly. Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes it's just as easy as like have a conversation.
Yep.
Like, hey, thinking about doing this, wanted to get your take on it. Is that something you'd be okay with? And then you can kind of figure it out from there. But like, as long as you're not stealing clients and, stealing company time and stuff like that, like I feel like a lot of people don't start on that on their business while they have a job because they feel like they've got to grow this huge company that takes all of their time. And it's I think it's a shame because there's so many smart people out there that could really build a great business, but they just don't ever start because they feel like it's got to be their full-time thing right away. And I think most people do exactly what you do, right? They make it they build it small until they can make it their full-time thing once they have everything
Yep.
figured out, rather than throwing it all to the wolves and hoping for the best. And I think it's a very smart way to do it.
Yeah,
So
and they understand, we're human at the end of the day, and we have needs and wants maybe outside of what corporate's providing. And there's actually a ton of people that work at my company that do have side gigs, and some of us it's cool because we get to partner together. Like there's
right,
people at my company that do DJs on the side, so then I bring them in for my wedding. So it's kind of cool to be able to
nice,
have those relationships and partnerships in both areas. And yeah, to
yeah,
your point, if you don't ask, I mean, I always say if you don't ask, the answer is always no. So
yeah,
the worst they could say is no, but at least then, like people that are just scared to take that jump, sometimes they use that as their crutch of like, well, I can't do it because of my corporate. Well, you might be able to if you just ask or look at the documents that you signed. Like there could be
right.
opportunity.
Right, exactly. So, I do have our audience is all over the country, all over the world. Are you able to create an event pretty much anywhere with kind of the way technology is now? Or do they need to be in your backyard? Like, does it need to be in the Baltimore area or, whatever, or even in the same country?
Yeah.
Or can you build an event pretty much anywhere nowadays?
Yeah, I mean, between technology and I can travel. So I've actually done a
Right.
couple events, yes, across country, both corporate and both for my company as well. So I did a destination wedding last year in St. Lucia, and that was awesome. Actually, doing a wedding next week in Florida. So
Nice.
expanding more, yeah, across the US too. But yeah, it's a combination of like, I can add on to their package if they want me there in person. And then we'll
Right.
just talk through what the travel would look like. I love being able to go on site to do a walkthrough of the venue,
Yeah.
really helping, get a feel for the event, the space, what things we can work with there. But there also is the opportunity for virtual planning as well. So some people might be like, hey, I'm good with designing the space, but I just need help on the planning aspect of things too. So
Right.
yes, I can do all over.
Very cool. So now what makes you different than your competitors, right? Every single one of us has that like, hey, this is how we are better than anybody else. Like what is your spark? Like what's your what sets you apart from the rest of the event companies that are out there?
I think the top two things that come to mind is that experiential side of things that I bring, and
Mhm.
having, I have my master's in business and have been able to focus on the business and marketing and management side of things and that full experience. So, there's planning, which like I do, full wedding planning. But I also take it a next step of really, again, kind of bringing that whole experience together, thinking about not only the couple, but the guests in the space too. What is their
Right.
experience? What are they going to leave? What's that emotion that they feel when they leave the event? And kind of really
Right.
thinking through and diving into all of those touch points outside of it just being like, okay, you have to order favors, you have to do a guest book, you have to do this, but making sure that experience really flows through together. And, I have that skill set and the years of experience working through all those types of things that I really feel like that sets me apart.
Right.
And then the other side of thing is, I'm a lot of my brides coming out of this say like I've not only had an amazing wedding and wedding planner, but I have a friend coming out of this. Like I think
Yeah.
that's one of the things I love the most about this is just like the relationships and the friendships I've been able to build through this and really connecting with them. I always do a consultation. You can't just go on and book me because it's important too that we have it's a
Right.
relationship at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Like we're meeting a lot, especially if it's the full planning. We have to make sure we vibe and work well together. And
Yeah.
I feel like I'm able to bring a lot of that personality and relationship to the table too with them. So
Right.
love that.
Very cool. That makes perfect sense. You have the marketing experience, the sales experience, and with all that, right? Good marketing and good sales is all about emotion. So you made a great point. If you're not just thinking about the couple, but also thinking about the guests. Because at the end of the day, us as a couple that's getting married, we want the guests to have a great time. Yes, we it's about us and it's our day, but I don't care who you are. Every couple also wants it to be a great time for the guests and them to have to remember the wedding. Everybody wants to have that wedding that everybody remembers,
Yep.
right? And the fact that you have experience with with being able to do that, I mean, that's huge. So for those out there that don't know how to reach you, what was your website again?
Kate Nicole Events.
K Nicole
Yep.
Events. Simple. I'll make sure it's in the description. So most of our guests have a gift for all the listeners and all the viewers out there. If somebody books an event with you, what are you gonna give them?
I would like to give them a free bottle of champagne because who doesn't love bubbles? And it's the perfect
Love it.
celebratory drink. So we'll celebrate a new working relationship together and then whatever event we're planning to celebrate together.
Absolutely. Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you. We'll definitely have to have you on soon. I'm excited to see where your journey goes. I know you're itching to really blow this thing up, move away from corporate, and just I'm excited to see your logo in other places and see you grow. I've followed you since you started the company, and it's just really exciting to see all the different events that you're doing and continue to prosper. So I wish you the best of luck.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks so much. And thanks for having me.